Lighting makes a huge difference, and every detail matters. In this video, you're going to see how we lit and shot this interview. I'll also show you how we shot this cool B-roll setup. And I'll cover some standard best practices and tricks I've learned through the years.
So this is our initial idea here for where the interview will be. And what I like about this shot is her face is kind of between these two things, this wall over here and the window. And we got a motivated key light and some depth. So this is looking pretty good so far.
The first step is finding your shot. I can't overemphasize how important this step is. Everything you do will build upon this decision, so you better get it right. In this case, we have our subject facing camera left, because the window in the room is on camera left. And you'll soon see why this decision is so crucial. This shot is also good because it maximizes depth. I've placed the camera in the far corner of the room. Although it's inconvenient for me to be up against a wall, it makes the room look bigger and gives us a blurrier background, creating more separation for our subject.
So this is our key light, our main light source. It's going on this turtle base. It's going to be shining up into a soft source, going through diffusion. The diffusion I prefer is this magic cloth. It's 8 feet by 8 feet.
The next step is to set up your key light. For this interview, we're using the Aperture 1200D at roughly 50% power. To make the light source very soft, we've placed our 1200D on this little turtle base, low to the ground. It's pointing up towards this thing called an ultra bounce on a C-stand. Then that light is shining through this 8 foot by 8 foot magic cloth that we've suspended on these two C-stand arms. This is called a T-bone. Now with our key light on, this is way too bright, so I apply 4 stops of built-in ND. Now we can see out of the window in the background, and it's not blown out like before. Also, at this point, a lamp is placed behind the subject on camera right. This will be a good motivating light for our backlight later. And this shot is already looking way better than before, but there's more to do.
Steven, tell me what you're doing.
We are adding a backlight that will represent what this lamp is doing. Obviously, it's not actually adding any light to her, but this 4-foot Amran light bar will give it a little extra touch.
Setting your background lights is the next step. Now, this step is very important, but I want to note that we have already placed our key and the shot is looking good. These are just the final touches. Meanwhile, in the backyard, James is setting up a 600D with a Fresnel shining through the window. I place a gel on it to make the light look a little bit warmer because the sun comes through windows like this during sunrise or sunset. As I apply the gel to the light, you can see the color change in the background. Now, there are 2 reasons why this light is so important. First, it's giving us consistency. Clouds are passing in front of the sun, and we don't want the light through the window to be changing during the interview. Also, I'll explain later why this strip of light on the background is important.
So for now I'm happy. I just want to put a negative fill on this side of her face to kind of control our bounce colors because these are cream colored walls and I'm just concerned that some light on this side of the face won't be very controlled. Also, it'll help with the contrast ratios. This is a pretty moody interview.
I've relied more and more on negative fill through the years. As Steven places this negative fill by the subject, look at how it changes that side of the face.
This is getting pretty close. It's looking nice.
We're missing one thing, sandbag.
Uh-oh, no sandbag. So right now we're using 3 lights, the 1200D, a 600D, and this tube light. Of course, we have a practical as well, this practical lamp that was just at this Airbnb. So today we're filming on the C500 Mark II, and we got this 100mm Atlas Orion T2 2X anamorphic lens here. I love this lens. Everything out of this lens just looks great, but it is a T2, but I don't shoot wide open because if I'm wide open, everything gets too soft. So I'm usually at a 2.8 or so.
At this point, the director and I realized that some of the light from the key light was really spilling onto the background, and it wasn't looking quite right.
That's actually a good point. We need to flag that whole thing off.
So we decided to get this sound blanket and block the light from the key light. Look at the difference that it made. It's really important to manage that light spill. Also, you may have noticed that we changed this pillow for another color. Unfortunately, now we had a new problem. That background was looking flat and boring. The solution was to use another 600D with a spotlight attached. We shined it up towards the ceiling. That way, soft light would be coming from behind the couch, adding more dimensionality to the image.
So what I love about lighting is you kind of, you get your frame, you get your initial frame, then you set your key light, and then you start exploring from there, you start adding more and more things. At first it can seem bewildering and difficult, like how do I light a whole thing? Just start one thing at a time, look at the image, think, what can I add next?
At that point, Lynn stepped out and we began our actual interview. So let's talk about what we see here and why it works. First, there's a checkerboard effect. Dark, light, dark, light, dark, light, dark, light, dark. Also, because she's looking camera left and the key light is on camera left, the shadow side of her face is closest to camera. This maximizes the amount of depth we have, and it's good standard lighting. The practical lamp in the background is giving a good excuse for a backlight, and we changed this picture on the wall. We felt that it added more visual weight in that top corner to balance out the pillow in the other corner. Now that slash of light through the window actually looks cool now because it's next to the dark side of her face. It helps break up that background and help with the checkerboard effect.
Anything going on here, Lynn?
Save that battery.
Just waiting. Hurry up and wait.
So these B-roll shots really are very similar to the interview shot. First, we put the camera in the corner of the yard to maximize the amount of depth, and we made sure that the subjects were positioned where the sun was behind and to the side of them. To fill in the shadows, we used a 1200D powered by Aperture's new battery, and it was awesome because the battery powered the 1200D at 100%, and we didn't have to worry about it. For an edge light behind them, we just flipped the 600D around, and to get even more backlight behind them, we used a shiny board on the other side. To dirty up the frame, we grabbed a little C-stand and picked some weeds, and I shot through the weeds to give the shot more interest. Not the most realistic lighting, but it looks magical and happy. So let us know what you think. Would you have changed anything with this interview setup or this B-roll? And remember, if you liked this video, do not subscribe to this channel. Epic Light Media does not need any more subscribers.